Now, the conflict in Ukraine has fundamentally changed how countries conduct warfare. From drones to AI, things are becoming much more high-tech. And Europe's having to react to that, but is facing a number of challenges in building out its defence infrastructure. Joining us now is Bloomberg Intelligence's Turnbull, a former member of the Royal Marines who has been involved in the defence sector for most of his career. Rod, great to get you on.
Good morning.
So how has Ukraine then changed the face of modern warfare?
Yeah, sure. If we go back before 2022, typically what would happen, and I'll oversimplify this, two armies would mass and meet at the line of contact. The front line is what most people would know that as. The one with the greatest inertia would break through that front line and sort of carry on and follow through, achieve their objectives, et cetera, et cetera. That's all changed now. Autonomy has kind of obviated the need for some of the traditional weapon systems, and the battlefield shape has just changed. So what I mean by that is that line of contact has now become a killing zone or a death zone, and that can be 30 to 35 kilometers wide. And so that's between the forward line of own troops and the forward line of enemy troops. So within that zone, nothing really moves for fear of detection. So what that's basically done is robbed an army of maneuver. And that maneuver is all important because what you want as an army is to have tempo, get inside the decision-making cycle of your enemy, and then achieve your war aims. So that's changed all that now.
But what's holding Europe back then?
Well, it's a plan. There's abundant capital. And as we know, this year, Europe should spend about £454 billion. That's up 75% since 2021. So that's fine. But it's what do you spend it on? And it goes back to that point of, has autonomy degraded the usefulness of some of the old platforms? You still need those old platforms, but the question is in what number and what type and how many, et cetera, et cetera. Where we're lacking, and it hasn't really entered the debate, I think, is on the subject of doctrine. And that's what I mean by the plan. You need an intellectual underpinning of how you fight wars, and there isn't really one for this new shape of warfare across NATO. And that's something that they urgently need to get a grip of.
But surely that's the same with every war, that you change the doctrine every time, or is this fundamentally different?
It's a tweak. Or certainly an add-on thought process that needs to happen here. So the Americans during the Iraq War, they weren't versed in counterinsurgency warfare at all. So they had to learn that. And General Petraeus wrote a doctrine in a short period of time, and it had some impact. That needs to happen now. So yes, you still need the things that maneuver on the ground, tanks, artillery, armored fighting vehicles, infantry, etc., but maybe not in the same numbers. And you have to think about how you use the drone capability, the software capability that we see in targeting now. There's a lot of sensors on the battlefield that need to be thought of in a different way.
I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. How then do you translate this to be useful for investors?
Exactly. And, we'll all look at the normal primes, some of which are still in pretty punchy multiples, to be fair, still in the mid-30s in some cases. Rheinmetall's come down a little bit. And, there's a narrative there. There's an order book. So you'd expect that there'll be some exposure to that. But maybe it's a little bit akin to the AI trade as well, where we start to think about picks and shovels. So Theon, for example, is a Greek Cypriot company that makes optics, thermal and night vision. That's done pretty well this year. Mildef, who you're going to have on later today, hardened laptops for the battlefield, in essence, has been the best performer this year. And then I think there's going to be companies that we've never even heard of, and they're probably in the private domain now, and I bet they're sitting in Ukraine. And one that springs to mind is a company called Firepoint, which is responsible for a new cruise missile, but also a lot of drone technology as well.